So, we're going to do a little bit of background first.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about what's going on now and then what's going on in the future. And you're going to give us all the wisdom and answer all of our questions, right?
Yes. 5 words or less. I thought that was in the briefing notes.
That was great. So, so how did you go from doing a Ph.D. in philosophy to being an entrepreneur? Or, where did that go? Was it one day you just kind of woke up and said, enough of this? Or?
Evan, you've done a deep background read. This is the first time I'm facing this question.
You know, I try. I'm going to put you on the edge.
My mother asked me why I wanted to study philosophy and what I would do with that.
And
I told her that I would build a world-changing business.
Did you really know that back then?
Or 5 of them. No, I didn't. I just liked philosophy, and it provided a lot of free time.
I love philosophy, and I love it, but you never get to an answer. In business, it's the polar opposite.
Yeah, well, it was a bit boring. Yeah, it was a bit boring. No, when I got to the Ph.D. program, I kind of actually thought it might be nice to be a professor of philosophy, because when I was an undergrad, they seemed so cool. And then I get to like the program, and it was very boring. Nobody did anything. People talked about stuff that was years in the future, or a paper from 2 years ago, or whatever, and it just didn't feel like an action environment, which was a little bit more my jam. However, because we didn't have to like be in the lab, I mean, in many PhDs you have to like do work. Our thing, it was just like read a lot of stuff, and I would do that on Saturday, and the other days of the week I had other things to do. And I was just bumping around in different entrepreneurial things. I mean, I was very interested in tech. Even as an undergrad, I had done some stuff. I'd like made some websites and whatever, and I had worked at some startups here in town in my free time. And then when I got to Silicon Valley, there were like people starting new companies, a lot more of them. And I bumped into a guy who wanted to start a mobile phone company.
And even before that, we're still on the research part that we're going to talk about. In '96, when I was in the Valley working at Home Network, sitting next to Rebecca, you started a company, CD-ROMs and a website company. And so, I mean,
I thought that was a startup. I thought it was a startup to go to the religion department at Columbia and be like, can I make for you a website?
And they said, what's a website?
Right.
Maybe
and I was like, well, you know, can I have like 20 grand and I'll make a website for you, which they paid. And then I went to the business school and I was like, you know how you guys mail these magazines to people? You should send them CD-ROMs. It's like a hugely innovative thing. And so we made a CD-ROM for them. And yeah, we were basically just like a tech consultancy. And actually one of my great famous, not famous, nobody knows about it, claims to fame is, I think, the first slice of pizza ever ordered over the internet from Domino's was from our website, Domino'sNY.com, which we did for like basically like some franchisee.
I can't believe you don't promote that. That's a huge accomplishment, Amol.
It's like having done the first like ICO for pizza. It really changed the world, and people appreciated what we invented, I think, yeah.
Okay, so moving on then to one of the companies you founded was Peak in 2007, right? So why did you start that company?
Well, you know, like the Virgin Mobile thing was the reason. So, you know, some dude had asked me if I wanted to help him with this mobile phone company. We got Virgin to invest, Sprint to invest. It became a giant business, went public. Even today, 10% of all the mobile phone users in America are on Virgin Mobile. Prepaid phone, buy it in a store, throw it away when you're done. That made me the mobile guy. Because, you know, 2000 to 2005 or 2000 to 2007 roughly, certainly an age of like massive innovation around internet. Many other nice internet things, but it was also a time that mobile phones went from roughly 50% penetration of the US adult population to close to 80%, and now it's well over 100%. And Virgin Mobile was a famous company, and we had done something cool in mobile, and so I thought, well, should try to use some of those learnings, but maybe we'll use them for a mobile internet thing. And so I used to walk around here in the city, and I would see these like banker dudes like walking to the subway, heads down, just looking at their BlackBerry. And I thought, that's probably the future. Probably everybody will do that. Everybody in the entire world is going to do that. And of course, you know, this is true if you ever try to cross the side, you know, cross at a crosswalk here in town. It's like, that is what is happening. But in order for that to happen, you'd have to have gadgets that were just simpler and cheaper and more accessible. BlackBerry was $600. It was just like a corporate tool. And we thought, all right, well, let's redesign the gear, redesign the software, and find a way to make it beautiful so that people will buy it at the same place they bought Virgin Mobile, like Target or just a normal store, just for money, just for like $100 or something, or $50, instead of having to sign a contract and get a $600 device. And so we made, that's what we made.
So, you know, a big part of this conversation is going to be kind of the roller coaster ride, the ups and the downs, and what have we learned.
Yeah, we launched Peak
so give us
September 12th, 2008.
And?
If you remember September 12th, 2008, I was on CNBC. They were talking about the product. We were like, yay, it's so amazing. This product launched. David Pogue from the New York Times had written a review the previous day, September 11th. 2008, and he was giving it the rave, like the
Right.
technology industry rave, like the huge mushroom of press attention that came to peak. We were on like the #1 gadget, Time magazine. We were on the cover of Wired, all this kind of stuff. That all happened in those months, and it started on the day we launched, which was September 11th and September 12th, 2008. And if you remember, September 12th, 2008, that's the day that Lehman Brothers failed. That was like the rest in peace, good times memo that Sequoia sent around. That was the end of the world.
And so what did you do differently? How did that affect you? I mean, that was like, what happened? What did you do?
It fucking sucked. It was super bad. It was not what we had planned on. It was not our strategy.
It was not what you planned on.
No,
Okay.
and nobody does.
And then what? So what?
Well, my
what's the-
permanent scars are macro. Entrepreneurs never think about macro. Entrepreneurs never think about like the price of oil when working on their, ICO for the visual cognition company. But there is this like huge complex web that makes the world work. And a big part of what makes venture work are the sovereigns and the commodity prices that fuel the huge flows of
Right.
cash into venture. Now, I don't know who are exactly your LPs. You haven't disclosed the entire list because perhaps some of them are these types of people. And we don't notice it working in venture. I was on TV. I was like taking every interview. I was running around. The company's going amazing. There's like millions of emails in my inbox. Oh, hire me, partner with me. No.
Right.
And I'm like, cool. We're in a great position. Life is good. Our product is 90% cheaper than what the other stuff is. This is definitely the way history is going to go. There'll be a lot more people with connected devices, and cool. We anticipated. We have cleverly stepped
Right.
ahead of this disaster.
But
No, that wasn't true. I mean, in September 12th.
during that downfall. Okay, so during that. So
Yeah.
what was the biggest learning? Or let me rephrase it. During that phase, it was great ups and great, crazy downs.
Yeah.
What was your biggest mistake then, in retrospect, and what did you learn from it?
I would have taken radically more. I would have turned far more radically rather than
Such
saying.
as?
Well, I would have fired everyone
Because
because it wasn't going to get better. It was going to get much worse for a long time. And it was way easier in the face of like, okay, cool, whatever. I'm the leader. We'll get through this. People, have faith. It was much easier to do that, which is also hard. I mean, because you can be. I mean, it's scary. And you have to lead people through battle, but actually, when it wasn't a battle. Like
it just sucked.
bombs had gone off. Yeah,
Right.
It was like way worse than that. It was time to retreat, and I think the venture people don't help you do that. They don't even know. I mean, like the guys on our board hadn't been through a cycle like that. There's nobody who's 80 years old and can remember the Great Depression. They don't have incentives to help you. When you fire all your people, you're going to change the timeline on the company massively. There's really no one to help you, and most of your partners melt away. So like big public companies who are our key partners, T-Mobile, Target, Best Buy, these like big companies that were our channels and our partners. At headquarters, their CFOs were walking around swinging axes.
Right.
They were
So-
like, new products, kill them all.
Hiring and firing. So obviously that's it's one of the challenges and opportunities of every entrepreneur in building every business, right? And
Yeah.
so you didn't fire everybody because you're trying to get through that and succeed. And around the classic, in 3 months it'll be different. Every entrepreneur, different
Yeah.
stages of their company. In the early days, it's usually I did it as well as an entrepreneur for 18 years. Every 3 months will get better, or no, in 6 months it'll get better.
Yeah.
And at a certain point, what did you do then where it wasn't getting better, it was still challenging? I mean, does that lead to the acquisition and why you sold? Or
Well, we changed the business slowly.
Okay.
Probably should have changed it fast. But the way we changed it slowly was we rode that crest of attention for this very innovative product that looked beautiful, that was really press friendly, and it was everywhere.
Right.
And we're like, hey, we're famous. Don't worry about us. Things are going great. And by the next year, we were investigating different ways that our market, sort of our guess about the market was different. Like, oh, maybe it's not like casual consumers. Maybe it's small business, whatever. And so we were expanding out our reach. By the next year, in 2010, we were finding, it's about emerging markets. It's about like China, India. By 2011, we're like, oh man, they've cloned our gadget, but they don't have our software. And so now we were licensing our software to them. And by 2012, SoftBank bought the company because of that. And then they put our software on 500 million phones.
Were you shopping the company around? Was it, kind of just happened? At that stage, I mean, you were getting through and
They were a
back up and
customer.
building the business.
They were a customer.
Yeah.
They were a customer and an investor.
So many people ask, do you sell your company or do you get bought?
Yeah, you get bought. Yeah,
Right.
I mean, if you're selling, it's not that's not it's usually not like the best outcome.
Right. Okay. And so from that, that's when you kind of you were probably advising companies and entrepreneurs before.
No, I wasn't.
Or did you start after
Dude,
that?
no. Especially during the hard times.
Right, because you were so focused.
We had changed the company massively. I was flying all around the world. I had other people's money I had to be responsible for. This was the first time I was CEO, and the other companies I wasn't. And I was like, dude, you want me to invest in your like founder collective venture, whatever the fuck? No, I got stuff to do, man. Oh, you're gonna sell pants on the internet? Get out of here. And I would just say no to everything. I'd be like, I'm happy to provide like an introduction or something, but I cannot like, I got to focus on this thing, and I can't help you.
Okay, so that's going to lead us into now, which you're working on many things and investing, but you changed a bit. So before
people change.
Oh yeah. So what was the thing that changed? Why'd you change?
I found out I wasn't who I thought I was.
Who were you?
I was a fox, not a hedgehog.
Ah, and now?
I'm a fox, man. I was living like a hedgehog. I was wearing the clothes. I was doing the do one thing, focus, discipline, be the master, whatever. Don't get distracted. And in December 2012, papers are signed, money is wired, and I'm like, cool, now I get to do some new stuff. Maybe one of the things I should do is find out why I have been so unhappy doing the shit I've been doing for the last, 12 years, basically. Because the roller coaster is why you're unhappy. You're following one thing. Every company is going to have that. There are no companies that are just like a straight line to fabulousness. Even in fabulousness, you suffer. You win, and then you have new problems. I was with some dude yesterday who's like, sounds like you're on track. Be ready for when the journalists come after you and the labor unions and the regulators. Next year, you should be ready with all the stories, anecdotes, war room. There should be a journalist following you, writing the book. Because when you're Zuckerberg, however many years in the future, don't come up with the response then. However you may feel about the responsibilities or irresponsibilities of folks like Zuckerberg, you take new arrows after you win.
Sure.
And you can fall just as hard and much farther.
Right.
So the roller coaster is painful.
I still have the scars and wake up from some of the nightmares. I mean, one of the companies that I started that did great and then failed miserably was liquidated by a firm called Diablo.
That's a cool name. I like that name.
Don't give me that. You're a little sick.
Handle.
It's actually their real name. And that was the main question I asked in that liquidation discussion. The boardroom that was usually 4 people was 30 people, including the lawyers. And I waited about an hour and a half as the chairman of the company. And I raised my hand, and they were all worried about what I was going to ask. Mm-hmm. I said, Diablo? Really?
Yeah.
And it was a mountain near their little office.
Oh,
Diablo,
okay. All right.
Anyhow,
I thought it
so
cool, yeah.
Yes, the roller coaster, and that's one of the topics I love, and I try to help entrepreneurs avoid my mistakes and do the things I did well. Next, moving forward, we met around 2013, I think, after Martin's tech thing, and I came to your office. And at this stage, let's put on Allison. If you put a photo up there, so I met at Knotable.
And, you found it.
And we were hanging out at Knotable, Knotel, which was a pre-Knotel of this company. And you said, here, try this thing on. It's my new company, Halo Neuroscience.
Yes.
And I think you said you were going to fix certain, ailments of myself. And so tell us about neuroscience, Halo Neuroscience, and what this is and what it's evolved to.
Yeah, well, that roller coaster. So in December 2012, I'm like, I will not just work on one thing anymore. I'm just going to work on whatever I think is interesting. And as long as it keeps making progress, I'm going to do it. So that was my new framing. And one of the things that I had heard about a long time ago when I was in graduate school was this wacky thing, this neurostimulation approach where you could make people's brains work differently using gadgets. And at the time, it was kind of premature. People thought it was dumb. Now it was like 10 or 11 years later. And I phoned up a bunch of people. And the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth Ph.D. or professor I called said it was dumb. And the 10th person said, yeah, okay, I'll meet with you. You seem like you aren't an idiot. And I met with them, and they're like, it's really dumb. But it could work. Could work. And I'm like, all right. So I went and found somebody, a really brilliant guy that was just finishing a PhD that hadn't yet turned into the evil empire of the establishment. We went to Radio Shack. We bought a bunch of shit. We built that thing I stuck on your head. And it
zapped me a couple times. I mean, what is it, 9-volt battery or something like that?
Yeah.
I think
there were some product problems in the early
That's what happened to me.
Yeah. There were some bugs. Yeah. No, I tried it on myself the first time, and I made myself completely blind for 3 seconds.
How was that experience? Was that like kind of a step into the future?
I was a little uncertain when I was blind. But after, because it was a very temporary effect, it was like basically we passed energy through the optic nerve, both of them, and it just like overstimulated it. Yeah. And then we're like, wait a second, why would we put it? We got to put it this other. And so that's why we put it in this other part of your head, and we were stimulating the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
My parents are in the audience. They're getting a little worried. What other beta testing companies? Yes. I mean, we've got MRI, next generation vision tech.
You try everything, and you will learn from it. So I tried it on me, and I learned something amazing. It made me really good at video games. And then I was like, oh, this thing really might work.
You really good at video games.
Because we tried it on me a lot first, and then we tried it on other people.
Which video games do you play?
I never played any, actually, for many years. So I just downloaded a new game. It was kind of like a Temple Run style game. I forget the name now. It's like this famous game. It's in the MoMA. And I played it. Tried to get good at it. Capped out. Then with the stim, I was 5 times better. I was like setting huge records that I was unable to achieve without the stimulation. And that gave me the feeling that it might work. So we started a company. I found a co-founder who wanted to be the CEO with me, like work with me. And now he runs the company. The company's doing really well. And we made a sport product. So it all sounds kind of goofy, but the thing we made after doing tons of research and a lot of safety engineering and performance engineering is a gadget called Halo Sport. And it is now used by many of the elite military and athletic operations in the world. The Warriors, US Olympians, Tour de France, the Navy SEALs, the British Rangers. And you can buy it on Amazon, Halo Sport.
How involved are you in that company?
These days, not that much.
What does that mean? For you, because you don't sleep. And we're going to, 0.
Yeah.
Okay, that's different than not that much. That's 0.
It's my polite way of saying I wish I was more involved, but I don't have that many avenues anymore.
I like that answer. Yeah. I'm going to dig them all. I'm not going to.
Go for
soft
it.
Answers
Go for it.
Okay, and so then at the same time, you were telling me about Knotable, which is a company that tell us what Knotable is, and it relates also, partly about photos and visual tech, and there will be pieces of visual tech in this conversation. But just to reiterate, it's about how do we build businesses less focused about vision tech, and what do we learn?
Well, Virgin Mobile was about communications, and then Peak was about like written communications, and I spent a lot of time working on email with Peak, and after that, I was like, all right. Email and messaging streams are kind of annoying. They get really cluttered, and it's hard to focus on what you want to really focus on. Let's make something that's like a little workspacey thing where you can put important stuff and organize it. So much more general than just like a task manager or something like the product management, project management things, but also much more organized than all the chat stuff. Now, in the years since then, it turns out everyone loves chat again, and things like Slack are really popular, and I think there is a good reason why. But like the CEO situation or the head of a department should be able to like look at something which is like, okay, our Marcoms, like where are we on Marcoms? What did we do last week? What are the summaries? How are the results? And you should be able to do that. So we were working on this like collaborative workspace thing, digital thing, in the same office where I used to run Peak, because Peak, I liked where we were. All the people were gone one day when we signed the papers, and I have like 2 desks, and I'm hiring people all around the world. We have this 50-person team building Knotable. Time is passing, and although the space didn't have a lot of my people, I had a lot of friends. Had all my friends' companies and some of the people I had invested money in and whatever, and it was always full. And after a couple years, it had expanded a bit. We had several floors in that building, and I'm looking around thinking like, why am I having to like fix the Wi-Fi? Why do I do this? I should. What am I doing? This is dumb. I agree that it's nice to like carry on with things that make progress, and some progress has happened. But is this adequate? Am I running an office business? Is that what I want to do with my life? This is retarded. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to shut it down. So I say that to my co-founder from Knotable, this guy Edward. And Edward's like, yeah, but isn't it funny? It keeps getting bigger and making money, and you don't do anything. Isn't that weird? Shouldn't we like have a think about that a little bit? And so I did have a think about it, and I surprised myself with the conclusion, which was we should shut everything else down and just do the office thing. And now the office thing is 100 times bigger than it was then.
So tell us about that kind of. That was the revelation to kind of now you went from focusing only on one thing to doing several things. And now you're back to focusing on one thing, or are you doing several things?
I shifted a lot of my attention to Knotel at the end of 2015, but we had to answer a few like hypotheses, like could we get properties, could we fit them out, and could we fill them with big companies? We didn't think co-working was worth doing. There are several large co-working businesses, and most people don't work in co-working. Most people work in companies, and companies are not meant to be in these little glass boxes. But companies don't like leases either. Leases are the taxi medallions of office. No company wants like a longer lease or any lease. They just want the space that they want at the time that they want it, and they want to be able to get more and get rid of it and not be burdened by that stuff. Every company in the world would prefer that. So we were like, well, how can we do that? And so over the first year, we opened 100,000 new feet of office. So we got a bunch of buildings, and we sort of built them in a nice way, and we started offering them to companies, and companies started signing up, and they were distinctively different from the kind of things you find in co-working. They were 20, 30, 50, 100-person companies. And then the next year, we opened another 900,000 feet. So now we have about 1 million. And bigger companies, Starbucks, Microsoft, Activision, the Body Shop's global headquarters, like real companies are like, oh, I like this better than that. They choose us instead of that other thing. So now I'm thinking, we should probably just run every office in the world.
That's it? Not, I mean, you're not going, we're
focus,
talking about
Evan,
space.
come on, focus. There's
okay.
only 4 billion, there's only 5 billion square feet of office in the 10 biggest cities in North America and Europe, only 5 billion.
So let's
totally doable.
I think it's totally doable. The biggest, once again, we're talking, I think most people learn from their mistakes. And so in the earlier companies that you were a part of, during the roller coaster, what's the one that you can reflect on before going all in on Knotel? What was your biggest learning that you are trying to either successfully or not successfully do differently this time?
Well, I mean, the process of getting like all my time, virtually like 90 whatever % of my time on Knotel was a stepwise thing. We took step by step by testing it, and that was one of the things that I didn't do in previous companies. Previous companies, I thought you had to go all out, sacrifice all options, just like totally commit to your PowerPoint until you raise the money, and then totally commit to that strategy until you run out of money, and that wasn't a good way to do it. So that's definitely one difference. Now Knotel is really rolling, and one of the big differences in the way I run this company versus others in the past, and it's certainly like battle scar informed learning, is there are other leaders of companies that you see around, and they're all kind of cool and interesting in various ways, and I'm not like them. I'm whatever way I am.
You're not cool. I mean, look at you. You look cool.
There's more to it. There's more to it than that one sentence, right? There's all black. That's a cool way to roll. I have a different way, but but the way that leaders run companies, if you are naive, you think is like one right answer, and then you got to change yourself to be like that. And I have stopped trying to do that. So there's some things that I know that I'm pretty good at, and there's a bunch of things I'm super bad at.
Which ones are you super bad at?
I'm not very nice. Many people would
nice
like
to me sometimes.
No,
You're not?
No, come on. Even in this, can you tell? It has been a jocular conversation.
I like that's the goal.
Yeah, well, so I'm not that nice.
You knew what you were getting into.
Nice. I'm very happy here, yeah. The thing about me being nice is I'm never unhappy. It's the other person who sometimes finds himself feeling that way. And I barely notice. I'm like, well, your company sucks. Why don't you just work for us instead? Give up on that dumb idea.
Do you actually say that?
All the time. The CEO, the first guy.
Do you enjoy saying that?
I'm just indifferent to it. It is kind of amusing, but it's not like I'm trying to get pain. I'm just trying to be forthright. Don't you have entrepreneurs come to you who should not be working on their idea?
Yeah, but
you're an investor, and you should be nice because you might alienate them. But me, I'm running a company. Come work for me, Holmes. Put away the PowerPoint.
So what was the biggest fuck up of that approach?
So many.
That was not, okay, give us one. When did that not work?
Well, I'll tell you, I have a fundamental.
No,
I have like a really big problem right now.
Yeah.
And maybe you guys can give me some advice about this problem, but the like hardball way of operating is not suitable for all people.
Right.
In fact, being so hardball-y ends up systematically biasing the company against some people. Mm-hmm. We have struggled. By January 15th of this year, we were at 0% of top management were women. I think it has a lot to do with me. Maybe everything to do with me. Maybe not only personality, but other things that I had failed to do as the leader of the organization. And we had hired a few people and they hadn't worked out, and now we were down to 0 January 15th. And so I undertook this like program of change on that topic. One of the changes was not to become nicer. The change was to not be that close to many of the other management roles. Because in cases where it might be too close and intimate and whatever, and my lack of niceness might not be a nurturing, supportive kind of thing, I should probably just not be there. Let me give way more license to the people that run the big departments in the company and let them do it. But the thing that I spent a ton of time now, the last, I guess, 120 days of the year, I spent time searching for for every single senior role. We looked at dozens and dozens. The lists were like 20 women pipeline candidates for every single one. I spent all my own personal time doing this. And now 45% of the top management of the company is women. We hired 8 women in 3 months. Amazing, stellar people that other people would have been like, oh, it's hard to find them. They're there. It took 10 times the work.
I agree they're there. I mean, and you've been to our dinners, which we've been doing for 7 years.
I know, and you work so hard to do that every single dinner, 50-50.
Yeah, every dinner. So for those that don't know, for 7 years, we basically bring the give forward nature of Silicon Valley to New York, as the DNA of New Yorkers are not always helpful without expecting something in return. And every dinner as a mandate is half men and half women, mixture of first-time entrepreneurs, funded entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs like Amol, and some investors. And now we have 900 people in the community, which is exactly half men and half women. And it's very important. We also try here with our speakers. And so now you've made this new progress. So that's a big learning experience, a big transition. So does it also change? So you mentioned you're not trying to be nicer or more warm and fuzzy.
I mean, I'm kind of trying, but I'm not relying on that.
Right.
Like, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah. You found an alternative that is working. Okay. And so now tell us a little bit more about the challenges. I mean, you're in the growth stage now. So there's many entrepreneurs that are early stage, some are growth stage in the audience. What I think it probably relates to the Virgin Mobile and other, involvement in companies that are growing. What is your biggest, kind of focus now that you're trying to do well? And also another point, in the early days of Peak, you mentioned you're kind of, focused in, and have you found one or two other people that are your mentor / go-to person for XYZ? I mean, you've got a great network of people. So, how are you kind of managing this growth stage?
Well, we're just getting started. I thought if we got to this, so when we started, I thought if we got here.
Where's here? How do you define here?
We've raised $100 million. We have 50 buildings. We're in a bunch of cities around the world, hundreds of staff. Revenue it's like go public revenue already in the business.
Great.
And I thought if we got to here, that'd be great. I thought we'd be done.
Just like you talked about before, every stage, every roller coaster, now you're here, and now it's even harder. Doesn't get easier, does it?
And now it's clear to me in a way that it wasn't before. My casual comment about managing 5 billion square feet in the 10, now I think that's actually, I think we could do 10% of that. And now that means that we're at 1 million feet. I need to get to 500 million feet because now I want that.
Is it I or we?
I want to be there too. I'm on the team. I'm going to play. You're going to hand me the ball from time to time.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's what I want. Now, I don't know that we all want it, but I think we as an organization have vast global ambitions. None of us came to the business to build something small that would just, be the neighborhood dry cleaner. We wanted to have a big impact on the world, and I think the way that we are having impact on the world is by making it easier for leaders of companies to do great things. It is boring what we take care of for them. It's infrastructure. It's like running the data centers in the cloud. But it's super important, and it unleashes their creativity and their ability to do great stuff. Companies go out of business because of their leases. They don't need to anymore. They are limited in how quickly they can grow and how flexible and agile they can be because of their offices. And they don't need to have that anymore. And I think it can unlock a huge force of economic growth, creativity, innovation. It is certainly a part of what has made New York and London already a very successful startup ecosystem, and definitely the way that the real estate stuff works in San Francisco. And I think the next level is to help medium-sized and larger companies unlock all that innovation and expansion too. So this agile headquarters thing we're talking about, we say that we want to build for you a headquarters that is agile the way your product teams and marketing teams and other teams are agile.
I think it makes a lot of sense. I remember signing long-term leases, which I hated signing, and how many people were going to be, we're going to grow, we're going to change. I mean, we were stuck in it, and it's horrible. So let's talk a little bit about, before we get to questions shortly, so have your questions ready. Visual tech in and across Knotel and the real estate space. What exists now that you guys are using? Yeah. And what do you want to in the near term? I mean, there's companies in the audience that are probably working on stuff like that.
Yeah, when people are choosing just where they want to work or where their office should be, the images are super important. So there's that. That's the whole front end and the way marketing works in basically every product category. But in the spaces, there is a really big push people are making to make Office smart and to automate and deploy a lot of different technology. There's a huge oversupply of this stuff, and a bunch of people want to put IoT type things all over the place, little sensors and radios and whatnot. But there are two sets of cameras that are everywhere in every office. One is on everyone's phones. There is something to be done with that phone. I have yet to see anybody unlocking it in a really great way. it's about personal authentication, security, access, and all other patterns that you have around you. And it's not just the vision, it's probably auditory and other. But then it turns out, like, for many years, people have been putting cameras everywhere. Like, the world is closely observed. But the software that processes what those cameras are doing is essentially, unintelligent. It's just recording stuff.
Right.
But the lobby security and getting through without having the 10 minutes of like fiddling over IDs and then getting the elevator to just know who you are and where you're going and come out of the elevator and into the floor, have the door open without a key just because it saw your face. I think that's all face recognition and people recognition stuff. And then in the environment,
do you guys have any of that, or is
we
it
have
not?
a few like demo things in a few places that we're
Do
fiddling
you think
with.
it's not solving a big pain? It's a nice to have. I mean, what's the big pain? We all in every business.
Yeah.
What's the morphine versus the aspirin? There's others
Yeah.
that are saying for type of business like yourselves, and
Yeah.
the others. Do you want to know which the management of use and supply and demand of desks, so you can be more efficient, maybe manage your community of members? So, if there's empty desks, they should be filled and or make more money and be more.
Yeah. The marketplace is the 10x improvement. The face recognition is the 10% improvement.
Okay.
And so it
the
is
marketplace. Give us a little thoughts on
tons of supply, tons of demand. That's it. I mean, there is
tracking
no
it.
owner.
What kind of vision about I mean, how could
Well,
that help
I haven't
you?
seen it help us yet. I haven't seen it help us yet, and I would love for somebody to show me that, because it's like rows of a database. Every single office in the entire country. When is it available? When can we have it? What price do we have to pay? Can we make the offer, get the deal done? And then on the other side, having that entire supply available. Like, the great problem of all offices is you look at like 2 things or 4 things, and some broker doesn't show you the other 9 things. If we could see all of it and expose all of it to our customers, then they have a far more efficient, larger, liquid marketplace for that stuff. And I haven't found any good. I want to give me an idea, Evan. Haven't you been preparing for this discussion for quite some time?
I have.
Give me like your vision, office vision.
I think there's a bunch of companies out there that are trying to do the visual sensing of space usage.
Yeah.
Right? Counting people and understanding, is the space full even though somebody's rented those spaces?
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, density
Density
in a
of
space is a
usage.
predictor of what they will need in the future, or
Yeah.
of excess they have that we might take back, and also of our design and construction process, like where we have opportunities to take back space. Like, every boardroom is too big and not used enough.
Exactly. So the adjustment of that. So
Yeah.
others on the health side, one of the challenges of group co-working spaces, or call whatever you want, agile spaces, nobody wants to get sick, but when that one person gets sick, the next person gets sick, the next person gets
Yeah.
sick. Actually, thermal or spectroscopy
That would be
cameras
amazing.
can say, hey, maybe you should stay home today.
That would be amazing.
Okay, and is that a morphine or aspirin? I don't know, but that is
That
what
was
I
super
start.
cool. Like,
right?
the same camera that lets you in
Yeah,
also
you're
has like
sick,
a red light, like, don't come in.
You can't come in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really obvious.
That's amazing.
That's
amazing.
Somebody
Or
starts
how about you're
sneezing.
happy? Or how about you're happy?
Yeah,
And it
right.
recognizes your mood, and then the office is like, congratulations,
Exactly.
Evan, what happened, man?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, when I sit in an airplane, it's the same as sitting at a desk, and that person's sneezing, and
Oh,
they got
my
the
Lord.
tissues there. I mean, sometimes it's me. We've all been there. Like,
Yeah.
I'd go talk and leverage my million miler and see if I can finagle something like that, because I know I'm going to get sick. Well, those things, that's the way I like to think
Those
about
are really
it.
good
Out of the
ideas.
box, like that kind of stuff. Let's have questions. Anybody have questions in the audience? If not, I've got many more. There's one right there.
Can you talk a little bit more about your abrasive personality?
Yeah, sure.
And more precisely, you said it biases the type of people you work with. Can you talk about the dynamics of the corporations and the groups that
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a personality trait there's one of these like psychometric frameworks called the Big Five, and one of those 5 is called agreeableness. And the definition of agreeableness is how much someone else's happiness is an interest of yours, roughly speaking. And people who are very direct, no nonsense, to the point, etc., often may not be like, hey, Evan, you really caught me on that one. I was maybe, I don't know, you have some ideas for me, as opposed to the way I framed it instead. And, the opposite extreme for some can also be a bit tedious, right? Someone who's excessively agreeable and never exactly says, like, oh, no, I don't have any more in stock. Instead, they're like, oh, my God, yeah, thank you for coming in. Let's have a conversation. And it's like, come on, do you have it right now or not? I'm mean. They're nice. Perhaps too nice, perhaps too mean. There might be some reasonable middle there. And I don't know, it's just my nature. I'm not sure that I can tell you that there is some cause. I think people are different. There's a wide spectrum of niceness, I think, in the room. And perhaps any good outcome starts with self-awareness.
Great. Other questions? Okay. For those of you that weren't here yesterday when I said, we don't know how brilliant you are if you don't ask questions, so that we want to then talk with you in the break. Usually kind of inspires at least one more question. I knew it did. See in the back right? Can we get that person?
Hey, Amol. Quick question about other businesses in the shared space. If we look on other stuff like, I saw We Grow, We Living. Is it part of those type of thing you're looking at?
Not for Knotel, no. All the We X things are a long list of ADHD disorder symptoms.
Okay, any other questions in the audience? There's one over there.
Amol, I got the impression from Alan McIntosh, I got the impression from something you said earlier in opening the statements, Evan, that Amol, you were involved in 50 entrepreneurial ventures, either as a mentor or as an investor, which you also sort of alluded to in the course of the conversation. You didn't seem to be that active because you're so focused on building various businesses, including now Knotable.
Yeah, I guess like between 2012 August and February last year, I invested in 70 companies. And in a couple of those, I'm like on the board or something, and all of them I'm available if they want help or advice. Only a handful of people actually call. Knotel is a vast universe of other opportunities. There's like so many other cool things that we can do to make the business better. The global expansion, bringing more of the data onto blockchain, investments in some of the companies that are in Knotels, our role with property and how much of it we're going to partner with or buy, and other relationships like that. That it's been really interesting and rewarding to go be a fox inside the hen house of Knotel. Knotable as an app, I use it all the time still. About 100,000 people use it. I never got around to like the monetization step on Knotable, knote.com, note.com is the app. I think it's a very important part of how I keep myself organized. And then Halo is doing really well. I have not started a new company in the last year or two. I used to start like one or two a year, and they would probably both fail, and maybe one of them would work out after a group of them had been built. So I haven't done that yet, but...
Is that a process that you like doing, knowing that, I'm going to keep starting them, I've got ideas, we'll see where they go, and if they fail, they fail? Do you get emotionally this one, I don't think this one's going to work. I don't want to kill it. Maybe Note.
Totally.
It's still there, but you're using it.
Actually, you know what? It's not even true what I said. I did start a company last year and another one the year before. So I have started, this one that I started last year totally didn't work out. It just died. It was called Shepherd, and the idea was that you could type in a thing you want, and a product architect and then a team of globally sourced freelance or full-time engineers would start building it for you. They would ship every day. So you type in I need an app for finding something, and every day they would ship code to you, and all you had to do is be the product conceptualizer. After 6 or 8 months of working with a co-founder type CEO guy, it just wasn't getting anywhere, and so we just stopped. So, I still like to pursue good ideas. I only put in as much time as I have available, and if there's progress that comes from me putting in that time, I put in a little more. If not, then I just stop.
Sure. So just a couple more questions to wrap it up. A lot of people pitch you for as an angel investor, and over time the roller coaster, depending on how busy you are. What are the personality traits of entrepreneurs?
They have to be really nice. I only invest in nice people.
Hang on a second. I got a good laugh though. In one-word answers, which I like asking a lot of investors and entrepreneurs, in one-word answers, what's the best and worst personality traits of an entrepreneur?
Well, worst is salesman. Best. I think it actually is just referred. I don't.
Word is referred?
Yeah. If
the
it's
best
not a
personality trait that you would love to invest in.
I'm totally neutral on it. I'm pretty neutral.
Did I stump you? Come on. There's got to be one word.
No, the truth is it's quite neutral. But the best, I don't know. Conviction, maybe having conviction. Something
Conviction.
Like that. Yeah.
Cool. I've asked this yesterday. I ask this every year. So I've already used passion and determination. Those are the two I used yesterday. And selfless and arrogant are negatives. But what is the one sentence advice to anybody that is a one-person or two-person team that have something that is revolutionary to have them focus on to succeed?
You have to make progress for every unit of time.
And how do you measure progress?
It varies at the different stages,
Right.
but
In the early stage.
yeah, well, I mean, at the beginning, it's you need some stuff, then you have to switch to making progress on the stuff. The stuff is you need people, product, market, and financeability, those 4 things. So that's thinking. Figure out something and find the people, product, market, and financeability. Then start making the product, then start getting market traction for the product. Product traction, then market traction.
Great. Amol, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
A round of applause
It's
for
really
Amol.
fun.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it.